Sticking with boxing, although this is an MMA and boxing show, it kind of comes together. I told you our worlds come together all the time with MMA and boxing. And yesterday we find out Jake Paul is going to be boxing Ben Askren. Now, here's the latest on what I'm hearing. Okay. So obviously yesterday, for those who didn't see the sort of the chain of events here, Chael Sonnen of all people goes on Twitter and says that Jake Paul has said he is fighting Ben Askren. Then my buddy Cole Shelton from BJ Penn gets a hold of Ben Askren. Is this happening? Yes, it is. Puts a statement out, articles up on bjpenn.com. And then Ben himself comes out and does like a minute video, which by the way, every media outlet took and uploaded on their channel. I noticed that like wildfire, whenever something like this happens, everyone puts something up. So it looks like the fight's happening, but then I saw Ariel Helwani from ESPN say that it's not a done deal. I think it is going to happen. Froggy here. Honestly, I think it's one of those fights where, I mean, there's nothing stopping either guy. Askren's not with the UFC anymore, right? He's retired, so technically he's a free agent. Jake Paul is Jake Paul. He can do whatever he wants. What was your reaction to this? I'm sure you've been sort of keeping tabs over the last 24 hours.
Honestly, you want to be honest with you?
Yes, let's hear it.
I think that I think he might have picked the perfect guy to fight, dude. I'm honest. We're going to be honest about this.
Yeah.
Because as much experience as Ben Askren has in fighting and as much experience as Ben Askren has in wrestling prior to becoming a professional fighter, he can fight on that stage. He knows how to. I mean, you saw him run off 29, 25 straight wins before his first loss. So he has the pedigree. But what is his weakness that we all know is his weakness, and everybody in the world knows this about him? It's striking, and more specifically, his hands. So you compare that now. Remember, I told you this kid is getting trained by BJ Flores. You guys gotta don't let that. Like, that's a real fighter. Like, that's a real cruiserweight. That's a guy with over 30 fights in his career. He's fought for belts before. So he's not just Joe Blow on the street. You know what I mean? He's getting trained by a real fighter. And you take the 2 years in account that he's been training. You take some sparring to come in. He's feeling very confident. And then he's watched Ben. He picked Ben. You got to understand. He picked that guy. Like, he said, oh, okay, I'm going to fight an MMA guy. How about I fight that guy? Because he saw, why Ben? Out of everybody, why Ben? He picked Ben because he knew Ben couldn't strike. So he picked the right guy. So now, Ben, you better not let down the MMA community, brother. I'm telling you right now. I know the contract's not signed, but if he does get that fight, please, bro, because he's a real corny guy too anyways. He just does real funny stuff and says real funny things, and it's all cool. Respect to him, But, dog, don't lose to this guy, bro. If you lose to this guy, it's done. It's over, dude. We're not gonna hear the last of it, and so I'm hoping that if when the contract gets signed, I hope that Ben really takes to striking. He's a fighter, so he should be able to beat this guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just from experience, from fighting for over 10 years, and he should beat this guy and should beat him soundly. But this guy's very confident because he picked you. There's a reason why you're fighting him. You didn't pick him; he picked you. There's a reason why he picked you. So we shall see.
It reminds me a bit, and people are going to think I'm a little far out here with this example, but it reminds me a bit of when George St. Pierre came back to fight Michael Bisping, right? Michael Bisping he was a middleweight champion, but that was an upset. If you remember, he knocked out Luke Rockhold, a short notice fight. And I think GSP saw a weakness in Bisping, and we saw him take that fight and win the belt. I think if Yoel Romero was the champ, I think if there was someone else like Whitaker that was the champ at the time, I don't think St. Pierre's coming back. So it kind of reminds me of this, like you said, where Paul's not calling out Yoel Romero. He's not calling out, I know they sort of talked about that, Bisping as well. But Askren, you're right. I mean, there is a very glaring weakness in his game, and that is the stand-up. A lot of people, that Maia fight, it really did not help his case because his striking was atrocious in that fight. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it here at all. I mean, it was one of those things where a lot of people are saying this is the worst striker in UFC history. He's terrible, all this. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. His striking did not look very good in that fight. However, I did a video on this yesterday, and I got crucified for it on my channel because people are like, Jake Paul's going to finish Ben Askren in the first round and all that. And I get all that. Trust me, Paul has, he's done everything he needs to do. He's, like you said, working with the right people. Training, he's young. He's going to have a little bit of a weight and height advantage in this fight, right? Because I think Ben walks around maybe 185, 190. Jake Paul's, I think, closer to 200 pounds. So I'll give him that. But I do want to remind people that Jake Paul beat an NBA player in his last fight, okay? Because a lot of people are focusing on the knockout, and I get it. It was spectacular, and he's got power, and he certainly looks like he can go out there and beat Ben Askren. But the thing you mentioned is something I think people are forgetting about, and this guy is a martial artist. Not just that, this guy's an Olympian. He's been a professional athlete forever. He's fought professional fighters. This idea that Jake Paul is going to go out there and steamroll Askren, I don't agree with that.
No,
I think, yeah. Sorry,
You nailed it on the
go ahead.
head. You nailed it on the head. I don't think he goes in there and he just steamrolls him because of the pedigree and the career that he's had. Like he's competed at high levels a lot, and he knows how to compete at a high level. So he's not going to get scared. If anything, Askren is actually coming in there with confidence because he's fighting somebody that he knows is not a professional fighter.
Yeah.
I think he's very confident about the fact that he's going to fight this guy, and it's just as he should be, because just imagine, like, a guy walks into your gym and and he says he wants to spar you, and he's been training, but like, okay, he's not a professional fighter, but I'm gonna, it's kind of like the same feeling, that's what it feels like to me. But it's with everything that you said, with the pedigree, with the years of experience, with the Olympic background, with the NCAA background in wrestling, and then winning 25 in a row, 23 in a row in the other leagues before jumping to the UFC, where when the going got tough and he got better opposition and tougher guys, he folded. So that pedigree mixed with the bad striking gives Jake the perfect recipe, because if he pulls this off, first of all, I feel like it should be an 8-round fight, and Askren went 19-0, not 25. We were 19-0 before his first loss. So if I'm Ben, or if I'm in Ben's corner, I'm gonna keep boxing him, and I'm gonna take him late. I'm gonna go late. I'm gonna go till I hope this is an 8 or 10 round fight. If it's an 8 or 10 round fight, then Askren should be working on getting this guy really tired. Because as a fighter, you should know that guys come out pumped up, all excited, ready to knock out, do all of this. I feel like as the fight keeps going, I think that the levels drop, and then Ben could show that he's a pro and stay. Because that's the difference between a pro and a lot of guys can come in there 2-3 rounds and just go crazy and start to try to knock you out. But as the fight progresses, you're getting tired, and then you're slowing down. And then as a pro, you know that, and you should be rising up, or you should maintain a certain level where he can't come here. I know he can't. He doesn't have enough experience to come here, so he should be able to hold him there. But again, we'll see, man. We'll see, because that's why it's called boxing. You put 2 gloves on, you get in there, and we've seen all types of crazy shit happen in there before.
Of course. And there's a couple other things I wanted to mention on this, then we'll move on to the next topic, because this is such a fascinating sort of setup here. So we don't know the rules yet, like you said, but I have a video on my channel, youtube.com/LynchOnSports, where I talked to Askren a couple of weeks ago about this exact scenario if he was to box Jake Paul. And Askren flat out said, look, I don't have knockout power. Okay, I'm not going to go out there and, kind of gave away the game plan, but I think people know he's not a knockout artist, right? He said the way to beat Jake Paul is to, like you said, just beat him up and go the distance and try and outwork him and, maybe get the later round. So that is something that he's sort of being aware of. And he also spoke, honestly about his power as well. Like he said, in training, he's stunned a few guys. He's never knocked anyone. He didn't mention any names. Obviously, that would be a bad move, but he just sort of talked about in his career, over 10 years, he never needed to use his striking, right? Because he's the wrestler. So there's that. Yeah. And then the other thing is this whole hip thing, right? People said he's getting hip surgery. He never got hip surgery. So he I guess he opted not to get it. Apparently the hip's fine. He's good to go. I mean, Ben is not a dumb guy. People saying that he's doing this for money. He's not. Ben has all this successful stuff outside the cage. He's got a gym. He's got other stuff going on. He's doing this for the challenge. There's a reason this guy was an Olympian. So all these people are saying he's desperate. He's doing this, because he needs a paycheck. That's not the case. So I just wanted to give some context to this, because like I said, a lot of people here very adamant that Ben Askren's going to get knocked out early. And I just think, guys, you got to look at the resume. He has some good wins in MMA. Douglas Lima was a good win. Koreshkov was a good win in Bellator.
I cannot believe that he beat Lima. That's so crazy to me that he has Lima under his resume.
Oh, Lima does have a weakness in wrestling, to be fair, but still, yeah, he's got to win over him. Survived a Robbie Lawler punch. I don't care what people said. I mean, a lot of guys get knocked out by Robbie Lawler. He survived that. Granted, there's a controversy with the referee and all that, but still,
I think he lost the fight. I watched that fight. I think he lost that fight, but he won the fight. But I think he lost the fight.
Well, because the referee stepped in. For those who haven't seen the fight, basically Askren got a submission hold on Lawler. Herb Dean steps in thinking that Lawler was out. He wasn't, and they called the fight as a win for Askren. But still, the fact that he survived a Robbie Lawler knockout, I mean, Jake Paul's not Robbie Lawler, guys. I'm sorry. He's not. Like, he's good, and I agree with what you say about the progression he's making. But guys, he knocked out an NBA player with no combat sports experience. Like, that's Ben Askren's been fighting real fighters for 10 years. So that is something I just wanted to point out. By the way, betting odds quickly before we move along. Jake Paul is my favorite right now. I think he's like a minus 130. So there you go.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What I mean, because people look at that Maia fight and they say this guy's the worst striker in UFC history. But I'm telling you guys, go look at the body of work overall. The striking's not great, but it's not. I mean, to say he's the worst striker ever, I could find probably some.
Can you imagine being a fighter, dude, and you've dedicated your life to this, and you're a fighter, and you've won 19 in a row, and you have 20 something wins, and you've only lost once 2-3 times, and the odds come out, and you're not favored against a guy who's not a pro. I mean, what did we talk about again? People are so gullible in fighting that they could just believe anything and go. The smart money is on Ben, but the right bet is on Jake, because if you bet on Jake, you're gonna make more money. It makes more sense. But I don't know how he became the favorite. You know what I mean? If he wasn't the favorite,
that's what it comes down to. It's really people look. It's literally the perfect storm right now, because Jake Paul got this viral knockout. Everyone knows Jake Paul's knockout, as opposed to, and then people know Ben getting knocked out. So it's like it's like this perfect storm of where I think Jake Paul's being maybe a little overrated heading into this, and I think Askren might even be a little bit underrated, because look, the Masvidal fight, 9 times out of 10, if he doesn't duck his head, Masvidal's not getting a first round finish. Look at Masvidal's career. How many first round finishes he has? Like none. It's the fact that he went shot for the takedown. Masvidal knew that. It was like he came in, Askren put his head down. It's like the worst thing you could do. It was like literally a perfect storm in terms of that happening. So we'll see. I'm intrigued though. A lot of, by the way, all these media people in MMA being like, you're gonna watch it. Come on, people.
Of course, everybody's gonna watch it. We're all gonna watch it, because when he finally fights a real a professional fighter, he picked. I'll tell you what though.
No, he picked
the right guy. Yeah, he picked the right guy. He picked the right guy. Because that guy's a clout chaser, first and foremost. I know that, because he spent 2 years calling us out, since calling some of my guys out. For 2 years straight, I had to get on Twitter every day and see this guy, and we'll just sit there and be like, look at this guy. So he's a clout chaser guy, and he found the right clout guy to chase. That if you get your ass knocked out by this fucking guy, oh my God, please. Just delete Twitter, delete Instagram, because you better beat this fucker. For this, you better do this for MMA, because if you don't,
it's going to be hard to come back from that. But can you imagine the self-promotion that's going to go into this? Like, Askren can talk. He can sell a fight. I mean, it's all the credit to Masvidal for getting that win, but Masvidal's nowhere near a superstar if it wasn't for Askren building up that fight. I mean, people forget that. Askren was like, it was a huge build-up.
Ben is he's the perfect cringy kind of guy. Like, he's really dorky and like really cringy, but then he's a wrestler. He embraces being cringy guy. He embraces that character, and he embraces being all weird and shit. So that's cool, but he's a clout chaser to me. No, that's just what he is. So he found the perfect clout to chase. So you got your guy, perfect guy. That guy has all the clout that you need in order to get you all the clout that you want. All you got to do is pull it off. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
If you look at the numbers, by the way, last thing I'll say on this is, that same the Masvidal card that he fought on when it was Askren to Masvidal, that card had John Jones on it. He fought who did he fight? Thiago Santos. If you look at the views on YouTube, who had the most views that week leading into that fight, of that entire fight week, of all the fighters, it was Askren. It was Askren and Masvidal. That was the people's main event that weekend. And nothing against John Jones. He's still a superstar, but I don't think people realize the following and the interest that people have in Askren, whether they want to see him lose, like we're sort of talking about here, or the people who, they think he's funny. So that's another thing to consider with this fight, where it's going to do great numbers regardless, because it's two huge fan bases coming together. But anyways, talked enough about this. Let's talk